Reports have surfaced in some media alleging that last weekend's attack by Iran on Israel was in one way or another stage managed by the countries involved. For more on that, we go to Moscow to speak with analyst Mark Sleboda. Mark, what's up?
Okay, Don, thanks for having me. I think we have to start from the assumption that the Israeli attack on the Iranian consulate in Damascus was just the final of a series of intentional provocations to try to get Iran to strike back at Israel sufficiently that it might spark a direct conflict between the U.S. and Iran. The reason for that is that Israel, I think we should probably say specifically the Netanyahu government, although he currently heads a unity government that includes all of his potential real opposition figures like Benny Gantz as well. So really is the Israeli political elite writ total at this point. They set themselves the task of utterly, completely destroying Hamas, which, of course, is simply impossible because Hamas is, while not every single person in Gaza agrees with everything Hamas does, they do widely represent the views of the Palestinian people, particularly in Gaza, because they are resisting. And Palestine has been militarily occupied and slowly ethnically cleansed for decades now.
Right. And they were elected, by the way, so they have some support.
Yeah, back when the U.S. was actually promoting democracy in Palestine, Hamas was elected, as in Lebanon, when the U.S. was pushing elections there, Hezbollah was elected. Right. And then the U.S. was suddenly no longer interested in Palestine, in democracy in Palestine and Lebanon. Anyway, so the only way to completely destroy Hamas, because how do you stop a partisan guerrilla movement / idea, is to completely get rid of the Palestinian people, to completely ethnically cleanse the Palestinians out of Gaza, which is pretty clear from the numerous rhetoric, just from every single official in the Israeli government, their military commanders. I mean, South Africa did a good job of writing all of this up in their genocide case against Israel in the International Court of Justice. It's pretty undeniable. However, they couldn't get Egypt to open the borders. They wanted to drive them into Egypt, and Egypt said, no, you're not doing that. No matter how much begging, pleading, carroting, sticking, threatening the U.S. did, Egypt wouldn't agree to this. So there really was no option left. They could drive them into the Sinai Desert, but that, I guess, was a step too far even for the U.S. because they would all eventually die. So if they can't completely destroy Hamas because they can't get rid of the Palestinian people, then Netanyahu is really in a tight situation, because that is what he promised. That is what the entire Israeli government promised, and their military commanders. For whatever stupid rhetorical reason, domestic politics, they did so. Or maybe they just overjudged their own military capabilities and don't understand counterinsurgency warfare at all. So the only way for Netanyahu to keep power is for the conflict to continue, because polls show that as soon as the conflict ends, he's gone. And no one else really wants to jump in until the conflict is over, because then they own the conflict. So it's kind of a catch-22 situation. Right. So Netanyahu sees his way out as escalating his way out of it so that the U.S. gets involved and turning it into a direct war. There was originally supposed to be Hezbollah, and we've heard Netanyahu talk many times about attacking southern Lebanon to go after Hezbollah. But I guess it was decided decided that may not actually draw the UN. It may not, or U.S. in. It may not be enough. So hence all the provocations we've seen against Iran, including the attack on the memorial anniversary of the funeral of Qasem Soleimani with a terrorist attack that was almost certainly, they killed hundreds. It was almost certainly arranged by Mossad, and numerous other attacks against IRGC figures, gas pipelines, everything. None of that did it. A strike on the consulate, taking out 7 members of the Iran Revolutionary Guard Corps, including 2 generals, that did it. So Iran decided they had to strike back. They had to. And they had to do so in a way that they've never done before. They had to do it directly. They've never attacked Israel directly before. A Rubicon has been crossed with this. However, they didn't want a direct conflict with the United States. And the U.S., may want war with Iran or many people, but not right now. The Biden administration doesn't want war right now. They've got too much on their plate. They're expending too many resources in Ukraine. They've got to keep their eye on the ball in China, Taiwan. And this was not something that they wanted. So they've been avoiding a direct conflict as well. From what we know, the Financial Times pretty much revealed it in the day before the strike. Iran signals calibrated retaliation to Israeli strike. And they go into pretty big detail from anonymous officials, supposedly on both sides. But it appears that the entire attack was agreed upon, coordinated, staged, managed beforehand, including when it would occur, the amount of time necessary to make the preparations for it, some 74 hours in advance, what types of missiles would be used, what they and drones, what they would hit and what they would not hit, and so on. And this was done to allow Iran to save face without and to demonstrate deterrence, to take action for what everyone agreed was an egregious violation of international laws and norms with the attack on the Iranian consulate. So this was all arranged beforehand. And the only targets that were hit were 3. The Nevatim Air Base in the south of Israeli-occupied Palestine, the Ramon Air Base in the south of Israeli-occupied Palestine. Both of those 2 bases were supposedly what was used to launch the aircraft that conducted the attack, so direct connection. And the third one is the Israeli top-secret, not-so-secret intelligence spy base in Jabal al-Sheikh, is in the north of the Israeli-occupied Syrian Golan Heights.
Israel proper has not been broke.
Yeah, that's rather unusual. These were all unoccupied. Of course, that says something about Israel.
Interesting symbology, though.
Yeah. So, but this was a direct attack, and there are reports that Iran, while most of this drone and missile salvo, which, by the way, was conducted not just to be Iran, but the entire axis of resistance. Hezbollah participated, our Ansarullah, the Houthis participated, Kataib Hezbollah, other militias in Syria, Iraq. Supposedly they all participated in one way or another. And on the Israeli side, they had the help of the United States, the UK, France, and Jordan that were also using air defense and air assets. So everyone knew when it was hit, where it would hit, and what it would be hit. But there was still a game of demonstrating power of how much could they get through to hit these targets, right? And how much on the other side they could stop.
You have this elaborate dance going on, and then with a lot of it is by consensus, and everybody's of course positioning for a little advantage here and there. What's the net? Who won? Who lost?
Okay, so it's not done yet. I would say Iran run on points because they obviously got some through despite this massive multi-generation. Now, notice there were no casualties whatsoever, which is really what lends this credibility. But Israel isn't done because their goal wasn't achieved. And now Iran has demonstrated for the first time the ability to reach out and knock them and get at least something through the Iron Dome. So Israel's impunity, their invulnerability has been violated first by Hamas and now by Iran over this drone and missile strike. And the problem is that they spent $1.3 billion on one night of interceptor missiles. This is obviously unsustainable. This is what is making them hesitate to retaliate, because they probably can't keep up, because it will always be cheaper to make more drones and attack missiles than air defense interceptor missiles.
Mark, thank you very much. We will definitely keep an eye on this because it is still developing. I agree with you on that. And we'll speak with you again next week.
Thanks for having me.
For KPFK, I'm Don DeBar.